Hello, everyone, and welcome to Tabor Talk. I'm your host, Michael Tabor, and boy, what a beautiful day it is. I love the fall. I did a video recording a couple of days ago talking about my favorite holiday, my favorite time of the year. I love all the seasons, by the way, which is why I live in New York. I love summer, winter, spring, fall, but probably fall's my favorite. So, anyway, my wife is going with her friend for a hike here in the Catskills in the mountains. She's going to have a blast, and I'm going to be here listening to podcasts, reading, working out, and doing these things. That's what I do. Okay, so finishing up on Eric Weinstein's latest podcast with Jocko Willink, the Navy SEAL. And interesting, I'm like midway, they're talking about, you're a soldier, you deal with death all the time. Death is at the forefront. But the point is, death is always there for all of us, at any time. In the middle of this video recording, I can have a stroke or a heart attack. It just, for any of us, you watching there, you could die like in an instant. You may feel good, who knows? You may be looking at your iPad and boom, car accident, cerebral hemorrhage. This thing doesn't last. We got a meat body and it breaks and shit happens. So Eric Weinstein, love that guy. So smart. Way smarter than me. Not even close. But let's not make comparisons. But he was talking about the movie, the Coen brothers, No Country for Old Men. It was based on from the book Cormac. Is it Cormac McCarthy? Cormac, I don't know, I'm mispronouncing. Sorry about that. Totally unscripted, people. Go on Wikipedia or Google. I know it was the Coen brothers did the movie, but the book is Cormac. What's his name? Okay. Great writer. So there's a scene in the middle of the crazy psycho hitman who goes into this little like convenience store, gas station, whatever, and he feels kind of like, hey, this guy kind of transgressed the politeness. He didn't like kind of the clerk, and he just has a coin there, and he flips it up in the air. It's a classic scene. You fucking have to watch that. Maybe I'll show it on my video here, but he goes, call it. And he goes like, what are you talking about? He goes, call it. He goes, what is this? I don't know what you're talking about. Call it. He goes, what do I have to lose? And he goes, everything. So the point is, your life. Like most people don't think about it, but that's the reality. This life, whatever, is just a temporary thing. And then let me just talk about tough guys. Like, Jocko's a really good guy. I like him. And some guys like, oh, he's so over the top, macho. Yeah, I'm a big. And he is fucking huge. He's not that tall. He's like 5'11", but he is like 240 pounds. He's fucking a monster. And he's like a third-degree black belt, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, Navy SEAL. Like, you have no shot against this guy. He's a fucking savage killer, but the truth of the matter is, he's just a person. He's gonna die. We're all gonna die, and when you're in combat, you're aware of this. Now, let me just talk about, it was just kind of the main point of this video recording, of these tough guys, like especially when you're younger, like, oh, he's tough and all this, and yeah, some people are tough, but there's a sort of paradox. The tougher you are, the more disciplined you are, the more freedom you have. And I think Jocko talks about that. The easier your life is. Because life is hard for all of us. Nobody gets out of here, well, as Jim Morrison says, nobody gets out of here alive, but nobody gets out of here scot-free. This thing breaks, and it's fucking hard. So you could either look at pain, suffering, and misery and horror in the eye and just work hard and just, makes it easier, right? Like, having cancer is harder than fighting ISIS in the Middle East. Can be. I mean, that's, both really extreme situations. But listen, I talk about my mother-in-law, Madeline's mother. She's 91. She's probably the toughest woman I've ever met. and she's 91. She's 108 pounds. There's some other tough women. We don't really get along so much, but she's fucking fiery. And she's fearless, totally fierce. Little tiny woman hunched over, 91 years old. Talk about, hey, Sonny Barger, if you ever read his book that started the Hells Angels, right? Sonny Barger, real tough guy. If you read his biography, really interesting book, too. Forget the name of the book, but I read that a while ago. Real entertaining. But Sonny Barger, he was talking about, yeah, I'm a tough guy. I'm the president of the Hells Angels. I'm always getting into fights, you know. As a matter of fact, Hunter Thompson, when he wrote his book, you know, Sonny was there. He goes, yeah, we fought, you know, just fighting and craziness and all this. He goes, that's nothing compared to when I got throat cancer. That's when it's like bar fights, sleeping on the fucking garage floor with grease and, you know, that's, wait till you get cancer. You see what I mean? So I get a kick out of these tough guys. They're like, hey, I'm a man and I'm tough. Okay. You know? So, by the way, Jocko's not like that. He's a nice guy. He's very educated, and he's not over the top with his macho bullshit, you know? Like, think about tough guys. And I love UFC, too. I mean, for sure, these guys are tough. And they go in there and they're like, okay, I'm ready to die. That's the thing. Are you ready to die? Are you ready? Are you okay with, you know, these fighters? I really digress here. That's what I do on Tabor Talk. But these fighters, you know, you could, you know, especially the early days of UFC, it's still violent today, of course. But the early days, no rules, no time limits, smashing some guy on his head, elbows to the spine. You could shatter your spine, and for the rest of your life, you have a feeding tube. And you're totally helpless. It's just, I'll be doing more in UFC. The early days, the violence, insane. Okay, I guess I want to say, Jocko Willink on Eric Weinstein, check it out. Death is always near. Death can happen to anyone, any one of us, anytime. And the reality is, there are no tough guys, really. I mean, if that makes sense. Like we're all wimpy at a point. When we're dying, we're our last breath. Let me end with this. One of my favorite movies of all time is The Deliverance, right? Burt Reynolds there, and fast forward, I'm not going to go through the whole thing. I'm sure people have seen The Deliverance. But in the middle, during the film, you have Burt Reynolds is kind of like this real macho kind of guy. He's like anti-establishment. He goes, I don't like insurance. I don't believe in it. There ain't no risk. No insurance. And he's like a guy, he's like this anti-hero guy. And the other guys are like these really middle class kind of, you know, too comfortable guys who have great jobs and their wives and all this, and what's his name, Lewis, this Burt Reynolds character. He's just like this, sees life for what it is, and he's this tough guy. And I remember when I first saw it, I was this kid. I just loved Burt Reynolds. He was like this such tough rebel guy who was fearless. As you see, Burt Reynolds breaks his leg during the fall going down the river, and it's nasty, like compound fracture, and it's horrible, and he almost dies. And you see the character, and this was so good, and you go, well, you're right, and he starts crying. He goes, no, help, you know? See what I mean? Even a tough guy like Lewis in The Deliverance, he's crying, help, help. You see? Even Jocko Willink, when you're at that moment of death, you see. Although fucking UFC fighters, they get choked out. Rather than tap, they're so proud. If you've ever been choked out, they cut off the carotid arteries and you go unconscious. And it's suffocation, and they will not tap. Most guys, they're that fucking tough. So they're ready for death. All right. I'm all over the place. I hope that makes sense. Good friends, good books, and a sleepy conscience. Peace, love, and understanding here on Tabor Talk. Have a great day, everyone.